Welcome back to the Joseph Graham Show. Today I have with me my friend Lorna Scott. Did I say your name right? We always just talk, and I never have asked you. I should ask that beforehand. How do you say your name? Hopefully, I didn't just butcher it
Yeah,
and say,
no,
"That's my friend."
you've got it perfect.
Oh, good, good, cool. I just wanted to make sure because I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to ask that question. But I had met you, I believe, through Gabe Arnold or maybe Joey, one of the two. I think it was Gabe. He introduced me to all these really cool people. Um, but people don't know who you are in my audience yet. So, in your own words, tell us who you are, who you help, and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Lorna Scott. I'm a Canadian from Alberta, and I help women entrepreneurs transform identity shifts into their bold business breakthroughs. So what happens for women over the years is that they've come into these different roles, and we all have those identities. It happens for men too. And sometimes we just don't know what to do next, especially in our business. And sometimes we don't even know that we're in an identity shift at the time. And so I help through some of those identity shifts through their life transitions that are going through that are maybe changing how they want to do their business. And I help them get more clarity, more focus, get really clear on what's important to them, and then help them implement that change so that they see the business growing again. And more important than that, that they are actually excited to get up in the morning and do their business
Hmm.
again.
Got you. So, do you help people go from changing just their business, or do you help them, like, say, they're in corporate America, to become a business owner, or do you normally typically work with just business owners?
Right now, I've been working primarily with business owners. I mean, I'm like just about anybody else, right? What I do and how I help them could help anyone. I haven't worked with corporate before,
Hmm.
and but it would be that's supposed to be one of the largest growing markets right now are is women who are wanting to leave corporate and move into
Hmm.
their own business, especially in their mid 50s. Like they're starting to look at I'm getting towards the end of my working life, but there's more that I want to give and I want to do something different. So it that they just haven't shown up in my world yet.
Hmm. Well, no, but it's interesting to me because you mentioned it, and I'm thinking of this because they always talk about men having midlife crises, and now because there's more women in the workplace, it almost sounds like I'm not like a crisis in a bad way because sometimes I don't think it's a bad thing. Like you just said, you've been in the corporate environment forever, and now they're making a move into doing more of what they want, supporting their visions, their plans, how they want to be seen in the world. So I kind of can see that connection there. What got you into even helping people do that? Because that's a little bit of a different niche.
Well, it's been a journey, and I think this is the intersection of my life from likely where I was even as a little girl, all the way up till now. And it is a different niche, a different way to look at it. And one of the things that makes me chuckle, I'm just going to take a little diversion because this just made me laugh. My mom turned 95 a couple of weeks ago. And at the assisted living place, one of the home care people did a little life book for her. So in this life book of her family, she put in different things about my sisters. She didn't say anything about my brothers, so I'm other than their like just when they were born and what they did. But she put these little sentences in, these little quotes. So my oldest sister, she said, was always a happy always a happy child. My other sister was helpful and down to earth. And then she put Lorna was a different child. She thought differently than most people. And
Love
I
it.
think that sums up part of where I got to where I am. But um, initially, the backstory with this actually started in a whole different part of my life when I was caregiving for my husband who had terminal cancer. And I've been around a few women who were totally like frustrated and angry, like years past their husband passing away. And I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to get consumed by this. I didn't want to lose myself. I had been building up different parts of my life, and I didn't want to lose that. And I'd been in Jack Canfield's circle. He had a little inner circle at the time. This was like in 2008. And so in there, I got introduced to something called the passion test. And it's to help you get clear on your purpose and passion in your life. Right now, it's the number one tool that's used in 67 countries around the world for that. So I did this because I was absolutely sure that I just didn't want to be that caregiver. And what
Hmm.
happened was totally blew me away. My number one passion was caring for and supporting my husband.
Hmm.
And when I embraced that, the 3 years we had left totally changed in how we lived, what we did. I think we have more experiences than many people will do in their environment, in their whole retirement, because I was clear. And I had a husband who would go along with me, which also helped. So we did some amazing things, including just a month before he died, we went to a U2 concert that was like 6 hours away from where we lived. He's in a wheelchair. We're at Commonwealth Stadium in this big thing, but that was one of the things on his bucket list. And we
Hmm.
got to do it because we were clear about that. And then I moved into helping family caregivers after I wrote and published my book and spent 4 years trying to build a business helping family caregivers. And it's a good philanthropical endeavor
Hmm.
and it's a very needy market, but it's not a business. So I've had to walk away from that and look at it in a different way. Hopefully, somewhere in my life, I will be able to do what I want to do, but it's going to have to be in a different way for them.
Hmm.
And so I had a brief moment in helping widows, doing the same thing that I want to do for business owners now, in, wanting to help them rediscover their life and where do they reinvent themselves now after they've become a widow, because I know that world well. And I found again that that was a needy market, but not necessarily a business. So I
Hmm.
walked away and from that as well. So I've had a few of the transitions in my life trying to figure this out. Facebook ads coach helped me start a Facebook ads business that was a good business. And eventually I was into 100% media buying instead of coaching, sucked the soul out of my life. Like it just totally sucked the soul out of me. And I
Hmm.
walked away from that with nothing to go to and fell into a dark hole for about 2 years. So here I was. I'd had extensive training in transformational development through Jack. I'm one of his certified trainers. And with the passion test, always into personal development. I had, I've made it through incredible things in my life, and here I couldn't even help myself. Um,
Hmm.
and so eventually I got some help to get out of there. And that's what's brought me to here. And it's taken me a while to
Hmm.
get back on my feet. But this is what I love to do. And the people I've helped so far have made incredible changes, and they happen in such a short time. And they're so happy with their lives, which is what I really want for everyone,
Hmm.
including the people that I want to work with. So that's like it's a long story, backstory,
Yep.
but
Yep.
um, it's something I've lived and it's something I'm still living. I've got my 95-year-old mom and stepdad here now, and so I'm back into a little bit of a caregiving role, but I've got
Hmm.
far better boundaries and being able to be clear what's important to me so that I make the decisions every day that are aligned with who I want to be and how I want to help and how I want to live.
Hmm. No, I love that because I was hearing the pattern within what you're doing. So you at first saw how people were responding when they went through a very traumatic event with your husband passing, and you
Yeah,
didn't want to do that. So you thought you didn't want to be a caretaker, but then when you looked into it, you just didn't want the outcomes that they had. You
yeah,
wanted the outcomes that you were able to provide, which then gave to you more of that heart to help people, which has been through everything you pretty much mentioned. That's why the Facebook ad bored the heck out of you, and you're like, I can make money, but I don't care. It's not there. That's another key
yeah,
business principle. first, find out what you really want to do because then you can do it each and every day and you'll love doing it. But you also said at the end, I have boundaries now I didn't have before. You had to probably go through all those different businesses to get to where you're at now. And that was the process. So you were saying 2008, it's 2025 now. This long story was what about almost a 12, 13-year process that you
Yeah.
went through to get to where you are today. So the next caveat is sometimes you have to take time to learn the lesson that you need to learn, but you also are willing to go and get help, which a lot of people don't do in this space. A lot of the entrepreneurs, sales professionals, they don't do that. They try to go back and just push their way through and do it. But you went into Jack's group, you got help with areas you needed so you could set up the things you are, so that at this point now you're working with a clientele group that can pay you because if you have a business that doesn't pay you, it's a hobby, not a business. And
Yeah.
they're able to get the results that you've learned along the way. So I love that. Like, I know it was a long story, but I'm just like seeing the we because so many people just see something happen. They go, oh, Lorna's an overnight success. No, we just looked at 13 years of her life in about 5 minutes and we did like a high level overview. And people need to understand your goal may be here, but it might take you years. Like it's taken me 20 plus years to get to where I'm at in sales and it's shifting again. Like I can tell it's shifting. So I commend you for that. That's interesting. Have you always just been the caregiver in your family? Because your mom didn't call you that. She said you just think differently. So were you a caregiver by nature or you're a problem solver that's turned into helping people and care?
I think I've been, yeah, and actually some very deep personal development in the last few months that I've gone through. The caregiver piece has been a big part of my life. It likely jumped out more at that time, but the rescuer part of me, I believe, came more from when I was a child, and I had my brother uh, died in a car accident. I was 9, he was 20. And I was there, like it was just before school when the police came to tell my mom. So I was there when they told her that my brother had died. And it was I mean, this was 1970, so we didn't have all the resources we have for kids. Nobody knew what to do. So I was often like how I remember my memory of it is that like they would be off talking about things and crying in the kitchen and I'd be in my bedroom or the living room. I wasn't allowed in the kitchen for those
Mm,
things. So I felt very alone. And and I think that is where some of that caregiving, rescuing piece came in. And then that was compounded by 2 years later, my neighbor's house had a gas explosion and a 4-year-old and a newborn passed away in the fire. And my bedroom was on next to where that house was, and I had a mirror on the opposite wall of my window. So anywhere that I turned, I could see the flames of the house burning. I could hear, that the woman, my dad, the mom was in my house. They were trying to help her while before the ambulance came, and my dad pulled out the man. Like it was a very emotional
mm,
experience. That very traumatic, very traumatic. And I think that's also where the rescue came in. It's interesting because I spent 6 years as a 911 dispatcher doing fire and ambulance dispatch. And my brother, who was younger, is younger than me, and it was his best friend that passed away in the fire. He became a firefighter. So I
mm,
think we both like had that instilled in us. So the rescuer and caregiver were always underlying to be that way. But it certainly came out more when my husband was sick. The skills that came out with that was just how to manage crisis. But I've also been a crisis junkie. I was part of the Canadian Red Cross group that did disaster relief in New York after 9/11. I was there for 3 weeks, and so that like I can't stop wanting to help in that way. But I've
mm,
also found that that's been a curse, and it's actually held me back in a lot of ways. So I'm a lot more discerning on
mhm.
on my purpose of going in to help people. because I I mean that's been why I've not had the success in business is because I will just help people
Hmm.
and
Yep. Yep.
being paid for it hasn't always um I will do it without being paid for and that really hasn't helped.
Yeah.
That's not a
Well,
good tip.
no, no. But here's the thing. Your nature, who you are as a person has been shaped to rescue, to help. But
Yeah.
most rescuers I know don't know how to help themselves. And it sounds like you've
Yeah.
started going through that work, but you're really good at helping other people with their crisis, but probably at the neglect of your own because you're so used
Hmm.
to if I help Joe or if I help Gabe or if I help Fred, I feel the fulfillment. But then, kind of like construction, same thing. The construction worker's house is never fixed because he's always doing it for someone else.
Yeah.
And there's a good couple keys you said there. One, I needed boundaries, which you said you started to set up.
Yeah.
Two, people will take advantage of it because you're such a giver. But three,
Hmm.
you should get paid for your work, for what you're doing.
Yeah.
You can't just always give away your gifts, your talent. Now, if you choose to, that's a distinct difference. If you said to someone, hey, I'm going to give you an hour of my time, great, but then keep the boundary, it's an hour of my time. Like I do that with sales, with stuff. I'll hop on a call, say, hey, I'm going to give you an hour. Cool. You call me again, you're going to get an invoice because this is what I do for a living. This is what I'm doing. I'm just gifting you an hour. The problem is a lot of times people, you give them an hour, and they can have 5 minutes of your time, and they give another half hour, and they have 3 minutes of your time, and they another half hour, and they take advantage
Yeah.
of it until you put those walls up. How have you helped? Because you said you're getting better at it. How have you helped set those up now?
The biggest boundaries for me, I think, have been more personal, and that's been with family because with caregiving for my mom, I'm like the only sibling here. The closest one is 12 hours away on the other side of the mountains, and I've got one in Mexico and a sibling in Jamaica. So I'm pretty much alone,
Hmm.
and there's we went through a couple of things through this year where I just made myself not as available
Hmm.
because I needed to work. Like one of the other things that I found that didn't really work well was to, um, act as if I had this flourishing business so that I could just take time off anytime I wanted when I
Hmm.
really needed to be working.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's just a boundary, is to be really careful about where I put my time.
Hmm.
So that's one of the major things. And I think of that because it caused some disruptions because my siblings are not used to me putting in those boundaries. They're
Hmm.
used to me being the one that rescues and does all the work. And when
Yep.
I didn't, it caused some friction. Um, but the other th boundaries I think work wise is just making the decisions better of
Hmm.
where I'm spending my time there, what is more important. And I'm still don't have that figured out. Like I want to have fun too. I don't want to
Yep.
do,
Yep.
but I also don't want to neglect the work that needs to be done behind the scenes in order for me to help people. So uh, it, it's being able to look at my day a lot better and structure it a
Hmm.
lot better. I plan it a lot better than I used to. Uh, and that's because I'm clear on where I want to go. So I can make the decision. The decisions are easier and better when I have that clarity and I'm
Hmm.
not just wishing it could be different. When I was wishing it could be different, then I would be all over the place. Like you take courses, you listen to three podcasts in a row, you scroll on Facebook, and then,
Yep.
oh, just a minute, I've got work to do, and then next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock at night, and really
Hmm.
not a lot's been accomplished. It's just been drifting.
Yeah. No, I teach people time blocking, and entrepreneurs hate it, but it's one of the most effective things you can do. From 7 to 9, I'm doing admin work or emails. From 9 to 11, I'm doing calls or face-to-face meetings, and like just having your day set up that way you're there.
Yeah.
And I do want to go back to this one because it's so true. Family is the hardest one to set boundaries on, to the point that I have literally moved 2,000 miles away from where I grew up. I literally live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I used to live in Michigan. And I love my family, and there's times, but I've had to over the years set boundaries. And I don't
Yeah.
even think, I think family doesn't even do it intentionally all the time. I think what it is that you fall into the role of Lorna's going to be the caregiver, so I don't have to do this. And then they fall into a different role, what they do. And then when you break that mold, all of a sudden there's the friction because like, whoa, whoa, wait, you changed the paradigm. Yes, but here's the thing I want people to remember. You can always change your paradigm. You can always set your boundaries. You can always set what works best for you because you had to take care of you and your family first. And I know that people say, well, they are family. Yes, but your immediate family should come before the family you grew up with because you left your mother and father and you
Yeah.
started your own life, which is hard, especially for people that like to be caregivers and take care of stuff. Because again, just thinking about it in my life, I was always the fixer. I was the black sheep of the family. I still am. I like that title actually. Um, I always push the norms, challenge the beliefs, do the different ideas, go on trips that people say you can't do because that's just what I like to do. But I also ran into a point where I was the funder because again, because I'm an entrepreneur and I build stuff and I had more economic resources, we'd go out and they would just expect I was going to cover it. And it
Mm.
was just a weird thing where I finally just stopped doing that. Not that I don't if I don't want to. Like if I want to, I will. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think it's just learning the right boundaries and what is it that you can do. And you have to treat people, train people, whether it's your family or not. It's your business people. When can you call me? When am I going to be available for you to work with me? What is it that is in the contract that I'm obligated that I'm going to do with you? Not, oh, you signed me up for this. I told you about this. I walked away from a client because I was like, I'm going to consult you once or twice a month for your business. It's X amount. And then they were trying to get me to do 20, 30 hours a week. I'm like, this is not what I signed up for.
No.
You're asking me to do something outside the thing. Old me would have just fixed it, like, oh, I'll do this, and then we'll come back to me. And new me's like, no, we have clear, defined roles and what we're doing. So I love that. I commend you for that because that's not easy.
No, thank you. Thank you. No, it's not easy, and it's easier when you know what's important to you and what family means, because family usually falls in to what's important to you. And that's part of the work that I do with the beta program I've got right now is like the first part of it is looking at like generally your core life overall and finding out where like what matters to you right now, and then looking at the business part so that there is that that match, because we can want it to be separate, but it often isn't.
Hmm.
And I mean, whether it's a business or it's a corporate job, we take both to both places, even when we don't want to. And we face the decisions. And something like for me that just came up is that, I've got an opportunity maybe to go to a live training event, which I haven't been to for since before COVID, I think, just about. So, this would be in a few weeks, but it's one of the days is my grandson's award ceremony at school for their
Hmm.
last year, and so that's like that. I haven't made a decision, but that's where knowing what's important to me and my children and grandchildren are very important to me.
Hmm.
And so is my connection with other people. And I live alone, I work at home, so I'm not with the people a lot. And being live with other entrepreneurs is also a great that's a great opportunity. So,
Hmm.
but I have my guiding light. And even though the decision, I wish I didn't have to make that decision. The decision will be based on what is most important to me right now. And and I think, I mean, one of the quick ways that people will make that decision, and I think it's a good question to ask, it's maybe not the only question to ask, is when I'm, on my deathbed, which one am I going to regret the most?
Hmm.
And that can sometimes get that instant clarity on making
Yeah.
some of those decisions. So, um, And I think in my pondering of that decision, it's also I'm going to ask if they know yet if he's actually getting any awards because that, that's an important piece to me right now.
Yep,
But
yep, yep, yep.
and he should be, and they might not know in advance. But and there's other considerations for me to make because it's a trip, so I'd be gone for 4 or 5 days, and so I'm not really comfortable with that with my mom. But I'm also in the back of my head going like, how many things did I miss that I didn't need to miss when I
Hmm.
was caregiving for my husband? How many times have where's that boundary between bowing to my family
Hmm.
because they're important and not looking after me and the other needs that I have? And
Yeah.
and and there's no easy answer, Joe. Like it's not an easy. Some of the decisions are easy. Some of them are crystal clear when you go through the process that I take people through. Some things become very crystal clear, and other things it just helps you with that decision. And then taking into the other internal work that I've been doing for the last few months as well, things that didn't get uncovered when I was going through the transformational work with Jack Canfield.
Hmm.
Um, I thought I'd gone to the depths, but I found a whole lot more recently.
Yep, yep.
So, ready, like you said, you've said this, I think, many times, you don't get there till you're ready.
Hmm.
And
Well,
so,
it comes at the right time, and I think we have to keep going back and looking into who we are as a person at this point, what we're doing, and guess what? It's okay, it can change. I'm not the guy I was 5 years ago. I'm not the guy I was when I started this podcast. I'm not the guy I was when I married my wife. I've changed, I developed, I've grown. Things that were important to me when I was younger aren't important to me now. Other things that I thought would never be important to me are like I enjoy quality time and quiet and solitude. When I was younger, I was
Mhm.
all over doing everything. And now I'm like, I can just sit out by my fire pit and have no one bug me for an hour. That's heaven. But then there's other times I want to just take my wife on a coffee date, or there's other times I'm going to spend time with my kids, or I'm going to a business event. Like I haven't gone to an event. I think the last event I went to was 3 years ago almost. It was a George Bryan event.
Mhm.
I had already met Gabe at the first, this was like the third one I went to, and it was serving me for a while. But then I got to a point where I'm like, right now is what I'm wanting to do. I don't want to go to events. They're not serving me for what I'm trying to do. But I love events.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's not like they're bad. It's just, is it good for me at the moment and where I'm at? And you said something that I think people need to do, and that most people don't, especially the caretaker ones. What do you really want out of life? What is important to you? On your deathbed, what do you want to not have regrets over? Like for me, it's travel right now. For me, it's time with family. For me, it's doing things that I like to do and not feeling guilty about it. And I think that's hard, especially for people that care so much, because I used to always care about, well, I'll sacrifice so they can have that. And that's cool to a degree, but you have to learn to love yourself and put yourself first sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're like wherever you're caretaking or caregiving, and I mean that can be for family, that can be within your own corporate job, that can be within your business, like wherever it is. If that's leaning, it's that we become over obligated and we overgive, and without receipt of what is reciprocal for the value that we give
Hmm.
and for the
Yeah, there
value of
should be
who
an
we are.
exchange. Yep.
Yeah. And that happens a lot, like in that identity shift, uh, because we do get into those molds of identities. And so you've gone through some identity shifts in
Hmm.
in your life. And when we're in the middle of it, we sometimes don't even realize that's what's going on and that's what's impacting the business. That's like I described it as, it sucked the soul out of me. But how it showed up was like I didn't want to do the work. I was just like, oh, like, do I need to do this? Like I just
Hmm.
being totally unhappy and not wanting to focus on what I needed to focus on, not having the motivation, not having the energy. And that leads to doing all the other things that maybe don't need done, like avoidance and procrastination, like crazy. But
Hmm.
that just general waking up and going, oh, this is what I'm doing today, like that's a total disconnect. And that shows up
Hmm.
in many ways for me. It was that's what it was finding where that transition was for me. It took a while to find that transition, what was going to work. But it also
Hmm.
that came down to my beliefs because I had the belief that nobody would pay for what I do.
Hmm.
And people are paying for what I do. So I
Yeah.
don't have that belief anymore. But
Yes.
that's I don't know where that came from. Um, but the beliefs fall in there.
Hmm.
And they show up when you go through this process.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
for
those
sure.
beliefs come from childhood, from what you've been taught on money and what you've been taught on your value, how you bring it into the world, social, economical ideas of how women and men interact, all the different things. Like for years, when I was doing coaching for sales, I was like, oh yeah, I'll do it for 250 bucks. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. I'm giving them an hour of my time for 250 bucks, and I'm talking to CEOs of multi-million dollar companies selling $100,000 contracts and deals. My time is way more valuable than 250 bucks. Now, if you're a really good friend of mine, maybe I'll cut you a deal and just do something simple. And I've had to go up to where, okay, what am I comfortable with charging an hour for? So, like right now, it's anywhere between $2,500 and $5,000 to get
Okay.
an hour of my time if I'm going to coach you. And right now, I'm not even really wanting to coach that many people. So it's super selective. I better, one, have a reason that I want to, two, feel like you're going to do the work because if you don't do the work, I'll fire you and I won't take your money. I'll just be like, no, you asked me, you didn't do it. Obviously, I'm not a good coach for you. I know that sounds crazy, but it'd be like me coming to you asking you to help me get where I'm going and then not do anything you say.
Yeah.
I, I'm not going to waste my time. And I know a lot of people listening are going, I can't do that because my uh, business needs the money. No, your business is floundering because you're taking clients that you can't help, and it's keeping you from the clients that you can actually help. The other thing people don't realize is the more you charge, the better the client. And this is not a rich people are better than poor people. Don't hear what I'm not saying. People that have accumulated certain levels of wealth have the discipline, the knowledge, and the wisdom to take the advice you're given and move forward. People that are just starting out are a lot of times afraid to act or get in their head or get in procrastination or do the other. They're not going to get the results. So you just have to find your niche and your person. And sales is a made up number anyway. So what do you feel confident in telling it for?
Yeah. Yeah, the confidence is a huge piece. And the asking for, asking for that price. And
Hmm.
it's hard because you're as heart-centered as anyone I know. I'm pretty heart-centered. Like really, if I never had to pay a bill, I wouldn't charge anybody. Like
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
if I didn't need, but the world doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm.
And we don't think about it when, we have to go buy a car or it needs new tires or it like we need to,
Yeah,
well,
it's just the price. If you want a
yeah,
Mirage, a Ferrari, you're going to pay more than if you want a Camry. What do
yeah,
you really want? What's the value? The problem is that I think so many times art center people like us have a hard time seeing our value, even though it's
yeah,
extremely valuable. We have a hard time understanding. Think of it this way. You help a lady get set on the path that she needs to be on and get clarity on her passion, purpose, plan, or however you would formulate that.
yeah,
That's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to her because now you saved her time, energy, momentum, and given her a clear path forward. So you charging for that's not a bad thing. But because it's simple to you, you think it's
yeah,
just simple, but it's not simple. Like sales is simple to me. It's relationships, it's energy, it's exchange, it's just negotiating. And to a lot of people, it's not simple. So if it's something that you bring a super value to, you have the ability and the right to charge more because it's something that they need that they wouldn't get there without you. That's where the value exchange is. And then learning to love yourself enough to pay yourself to do the things that you're doing. Like someone right now is talking to Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos and getting paid 100 to $200,000 doing probably something that you or I could do, or we have a skill set in, but they asked and we didn't. that's how this crazy world is. There's so many different levels here. And if you go in masterminds, because I know you've been in a lot of masterminds,
Yeah.
the more you pay to get into a mastermind, the better quality of the people. I don't know why it's that way, but tell me if your experience is wrong. But the more I paid to get in, or the higher, I don't even want to use the term higher up group, but the people more willing to invest in themselves seem to be more apt to go farther, do more things, and be able to accomplish more. Has that been your experience?
Oh, that's definitely been my experience. It, and I hate to say it in the way of the more you pay, the better it is, but I think that's an
But it's true.
evolution.
Truth is
It,
true.
it, it's true, and it's like a doctor. Well, I don't know. Your medical system is different than ours, but generally
It is.
speaking, you're going to go like who, it doesn't matter who's paying the bill. If you're going to a general practitioner, it's going to be less than if you're going to like if you're going to an oncologist or you're,
Mhm.
going to a heart specialist. Like there's more experience, there's more knowledge, there's it's a different level, and that happens in business too. I mean, the caution I would maybe add to people is right now is that you don't have to go to those huge, hugely
Right.
priced masterminds when you're just in the beginning stages,
No, don't.
because it's
I will. No, don't.
yeah, exactly. Like you will grow into it. Like
Mhm.
you go to the group that's going to rise you to the next level. And then from there, you're going to rise to another level. The only caveat I would bring to that is Brian Kurtz's Titans Accelerator Group, which is for direct response marketers, or people with businesses who use direct response marketing. It's not just for businesses who are providing marketing services. It's for any like it if for the because it's I don't know, $2,000 a year or something. Like it is super cheap. But the
Mhm.
people who are in there are incredibly bright. And I think they're as bright as the household names that we might think about. They've got tons of experience. They're like amazing people, and they're so generous. It's a heart-centered group that
Mhm.
is really helpful. Like that I'll hop on a call with you anytime, and there's a limit to that, but there isn't. I don't think there's anyone in there who wouldn't give an hour of their time to help somebody
Yeah.
through a problem. I've had numerous people help me, and I've helped a few myself. So that it's a very giving and receiving group. And I mean, Brian wrote the book on like literally his book is called Over Deliver. So he talks about relationships. He is all about relationships.
Mhm.
And Brian himself was the top email marketer in the world when he was working in for Boardroom. And he's retired now, wanting to continue to help. So like this is a man that, likely I would never have been in his world
Mhm.
in any way, however I found him through my Facebook ads coach. That's he said you need to
Yeah.
take breakthrough advertising boot camp. I took the boot camp. I
Mhm.
realized this was a good group of people, and I've made some really great friends. So I would say that that is an exception. It's
Mhm.
still there's still a level above that, like
Mhm.
of a higher level, higher price mastermind, which Brian used to have that he dissolved a year ago or so. So that is one that I think like it's the best, the best for the money that you pay. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's incredibly cheap. Um,
Well, and I think it comes down to finding the right group for you. Like the first one I actually got into, I think was $300 a month. So it
mhm.
wasn't anything crazy. And it was just one of those things. I was learning to just get my podcast, doing different things. But I think you mentioned something else here is key. Vet who you're talking to and don't get caught with the snake oil salesperson.
Mhm.
Meaning
Yeah.
that if someone is training you on something, they better have a business or a track record to do. I use my friend Tony Watler as an example. Tony Watley was in corporate America. He had two businesses that he took to over $1 million on the side before he started his own business. Now he has a coaching program called 365. He does a bunch of stuff with it. but he was working for, I believe it was Exxon. It was an oil company. I might be wrong on the oil company, so don't quote me on that part. But he was
Yeah.
handling like 200 million a year in revenue
Wow.
for that company. Like he understands business. Well, now he's a business coach, but he's been in business. He took two businesses to over a million himself, plus he did this. I'll listen to him on business. But I'm not going to listen to someone that just comes on and goes, I'm a business coach. Well, what business did you start? Well, I took this course and I did this thing. Always vet the person. Now, there are some stuff you can take courses for and do, but I'm just saying, like, sales wise, I'm not going to talk to the greenhorn sales guy with it. Other things, I like the fact that some people I know get certifications because if you get certifications and they've followed rules and processes and you know that there's an
Yeah.
actual system in place, not just a charismatic leader that's selling you a Ponzi scheme, as we've seen, and I won't mention anyone, but as we've seen recently in media, some of the higher name people get caught up in scams.
Yeah.
So it's again vetting it out and then finding out how the people are. And most of these programs will have, like you said, a boot camp or something you can try out. So I'm not saying don't do the little ones. I'm not saying go drop $20,000 either, though I know people that do. It's just finding the right value for you and where you're at. If your business just started, your business can't afford to do 20,000 in investing in a mastermind group. It might be able to afford $200 a month.
Yeah.
You got to find that balance.
Yeah, definitely. And I certainly aspire, at least at this point, to, I'd love to be part of the Genius Network.
Hmm.
I've really come to like Joe Polish and the people who are there, but I've got a long way to go to be in that group. And maybe I'll never
You
get there.
know,
Maybe there's another one that shows up that would be better for me. But that's, when you
inside
talk about
baseball.
doing what you're doing, like what you're best at, that's kind of where I came up with where I fit
Hmm.
because I'm not a sales coach. I'm not a business coach. I have not grown a business to extraordinary amounts. I've fumbled my way through finding what it is, and I've helped people along the way. Like I learned people, like the work I did with caregivers, like I totally helped a lot of people, not just with my
Hmm.
book. I was on national committees. I spoke at a conference, like the national conference in Chicago. I was well known in a lot of
Hmm.
places for that, but it wasn't a business. So, my experience in saying, my experience in helping people with the business would be this, just reiterating the business training I've had. But my genius is in helping people figure out what it is that they want to do in their
Hmm.
business. And then I'm great with strategic processes. I'm great with that kind of planning and helping you build out that part of the business.
Hmm.
So that's where I fit. I don't fit in the other pieces.
But I
That's
don't think everyone should. I think that's
yeah,
perfect because you have your niche, you have your group, and you're good in crisis setting, coming in and fixing an area that they're having issues with and getting them a system and a
yeah,
process in place, possibly just from me talking with you.
yeah.
Little inside baseball, because I just thought about this. I get access to networks because of what we're doing right now. My podcast opens more doors for me. So if you want to get access to networks, because you mentioned Joe Polish's group, I've had at least five people from his group on my show because
Wow.
I met one of them and she introduced me to six other of them that are in that network. And then I know people that are in his group, but I didn't meet them through his group, but have been on my show. I probably have had about 10 people from Genius Network um, that have been on this show, from Doreen Rivers to Kassam Aslam and some of the other people. Um, but just find a way to fit in where it works for you. Like I
Yeah,
would never try to tell someone how to set up a business, but if you want me to set up a sales team, I can do that. If you want me to tell you how to
exactly.
negotiate with CEOs, I got you there. If you want to talk about human connection and that, I'm great there. But like you, I'm not going to go and say, hey, yeah, you need to go get this permit and set this up for your accounting team. That's too broad for me. But for me, I think it's just finding your niche, finding who you help. And like you said, you help people discover what they really want to do so that they can move forward and build the business that will let them live the life they want. That's what I'm hearing you say. You probably say it better
Yeah.
than that, but that's just where I reflect it back.
Yeah. No, I think you've said it very well. And it's taking that and moving it forward once you have that. Because I think you can, I mean, of course, my perspective is that you can take all the sales training you want. You can take all the coaching training you want. You can take all the how to build a business training you want. You could do all of those things. But if you're not aligned with who you are and what your gifts are and what is most important for you right now, then all of that doesn't matter because you're still going to be uh, discontented. You're still not going to be happy. You're going to be spending hours doing something you don't want to do. And
Hmm.
that isn't what we're here for. And that those things pull you away from your family, they pull you away from the other things that are important to you. It impacts your health. Like there's so much more to it that, in the space of, 3 hours, you can get that clarity. And it's not
Hmm.
something you do once, and that's it for the rest of your life. I look at purpose and passion in a little different way. So I feel I've got a life purpose. This is one of the things that I came up with in some of the training that I was taking. So, my life purpose is to um, help people have build their life with peace, hope, and joy and love in the context of the good of all who are concerned. But I express that in different ways. So I've expressed that, in the crisis response. I've expressed that as a caregiver. I've expressed that, I've expressed that in my family. I've expressed that like in
Hmm.
all different ways. And the passions, some of them stay the same, but some of them change because our life changes. My life changed when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and it changed again when he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Your life changed when your sister was diagnosed with cancer.
Hmm.
Like and your mom's in her own fight. Like so
Hmm.
your life has changed, your move changed. Like you get kids, life changes. Like so there's always something that happens. And but once you get clear on it the first time, it's easier to see that coming up when it happens again 6 months later or 2 years later. And there's usually a thread of something throughout all of them that
Hmm.
makes sense. But sometimes sometimes that change, that identity shift is a big one. For me, it is the caregiving person, is moving, like taking the skills that continue to help people and using them without draining myself, being the
Hmm.
caregiver that gives all, that overgives, that that depletes herself to help other people. Like that's the identity I need to shift. That's the identity that has shifted. And but I can still care for people.
Yeah.
I just do it in a coming from a much healthier way.
No, I love that. I do. Where can people find you at?
That lornascott.com. And that website is almost constantly updating, just as I'm updating. If it's okay, I do have a free gift. So that'll be at lornascott.com/alignment catalyst. So that actually walks people through where assessing where their energy's at, what that means in their life and their business, and then gives them three really clear, personalized action steps for how they can increase their energy and get feeling back into being in alignment.
Nice. No, I love that. I love that. Any last part? I know we talked about a bunch of different things, but anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
Um, I think I just want to leave right now with encouraging people to do what it is that they want to do and to not let other people distract them or tell them that it is not possible. To believe in themselves. And for anyone who isn't believing in themselves, always offer to share my belief in them until they can believe in themselves, because that made a world of difference for me. And that we are meant to be alive and meant to live, not meant to be dying for years and years and years.
Mm. I love that. We are meant to live and be alive, not to be dying for years and years. I appreciate you, Lorna. We'll be definitely having you back on the show again. Go find her. Go take the testing. I'm gonna say it wrong because I had thought catalyst in my head because I think that might have been in
Yeah.
it. Um, But yeah, and until next time, just go and actually live your life how you want because at the end of the day, it's your life and no one else gets a vote but you. Until next time, share this episode, like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you on the next show.